Welcome to Plain Talk, where in the episode earlier this week, I got a little emotional about back to school. It is always an emotional time for me, Chad. I don't know. I love my kids so much, which doesn't make me unique. Well, everybody loves their kids, but it's so hard for me to just watch them growing. On one hand, I love watching them turn into the people they're going to be. On the other hand, I hate that they don't need their dad as much. It's a really hard time for me. I'm being very genuine about that.
Yeah, Evan often will say to me, "I'm a little man now," and I yell at him and say, "No, you're not. You're not. You're not. You don't get to be a little man yet." And so, yeah, it's hard. Am I ready for maybe school to start to give a little more structure to the lives at the Oban's house? Yep.
Yeah. I think I surprise people when I tell them that.
That you love your kids,
and I miss my kids when they go back to school, especially because I work from home.
Right.
And there's probably plenty of people that I've been talking to or been interviewing that have randomly heard little Cooper or little Layla come and say, "Daddy, I need some," and you know how patient they are when you're on the phone.
Yep.
And don't mind interjecting. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to the United States Senator or the governor or anything like that. They don't care. They want some macaroni and cheese.
And especially right now, you go from a summer where your kids are around, your wife is around, and now your house is empty. You're an empty nester now.
It's just me. Well, for the day, during the daytime.
Yeah.
It's just me and the dogs. All of that is prelude to another school year starting. And of course, one of the rituals of the school year is putting money in that school lunch account. And, I did it again this year. I put $100 in each one because I don't like, they charge me a fee too, because I do it through the online thing. It's like a fee. So I try to put in larger amounts so I don't have to do it so often. And again, just started thinking about this could be a cost that we take off. Now, everybody thinks, Port just doesn't want to pay for school lunch for his kids. I can afford to pay for school lunch for my kids. It's not that. It's just, I think of how many families out there are struggling with inflation. The raises they're getting at work aren't keeping up with rising costs. Maybe they got into a car accident. Maybe they needed a new hot water heater, all those things.
Maybe their health insurance went up 10% this year.
Maybe their health insurance went up. All these things that every family deals with. It just feels like we could take school lunch off their backs when they got kids. That's a stressful time of life. And I just don't understand why we're doing it. I called it the back to school tax.
I like that.
Which is, I don't know, was me kind of being funny, but it just seems like, I don't know. Obviously, we've been talking about this for a while. We've been through a couple legislative sessions now where it was a hot issue, and we're just not getting traction with it. And I don't know. I think it's like a generational thing. Like it's just going to take a new crop of lawmakers.
Well, let me ask you this, Rob. We just saw the poll that came out from the News Co-op. I think it was like over 70% would support using the legacy fund to pay for school meals. Are you ready to say, hey, maybe the people should vote on this because the legislature isn't going to do? The legislature has had ample opportunity to pass something that's over 70% of North Dakotans support. Is this not a time where we should be able to use the initiated or constitutional measure process? They've had their shot.
Yeah, I've argued that I wouldn't mind a limit. I would feel better. Everybody knows how I feel about the initiated measure process. I would feel better about it if it was limited to instances like this, where the legislature clearly they debated it and they shot it down. If there's enough public support to essentially veto that decision, I know that's maybe not spot on use of the word veto, but kind of veto that decision. Like, you guys chose not to act. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to put something we like on the ballot. I still think you're rolling the dice because I don't want to put something that's stupid on the ballot. I think anytime, I don't want us to get too cute about locking up legacy fund revenues. I think there's maybe a way we could do it out of general funds, but yeah, if you want to say I am frustrated with the legislature and I would be supportive, depending on the specific ballot measure, I would be supportive of an effort like that.
So I almost think of it as a reverse referral, right? We have the ability, if the legislature passes something, to overturn what the legislature did. If they've got a couple sessions to run through this and they're not doing it, they've had chances to pass it. I think this is exactly
Yeah.
This is an abuse of the process. This is what the process is for.
Right. I agree with that. This isn't some out of state billionaire with a hobby horse issue that's riding in with really, like Marzy's Law, with really no context, no public outcry for it, and just sort of imposing it on us because with a slick, campaign and everything else. Um, you're right. That's what this is. If we had something, I almost think it would be cool, what you said, like a reverse referendum. People know what a referendum is. It's essentially the voters, if the legislature, um, if the legislature passes a law, if you collect enough signatures, you can refer that law to the ballot, and then it can be defeated by the voters there, even though the legislature passed it. It's essentially a legislative veto. I like the idea, like if we limited initiated measures where they could grab like a failed bill draft and put that on the ballot.
Like put House Bill 1407 onto the ballot the same, and maybe you have to collect signatures in a very narrow time frame, like you have to do with a referral as well. So I think this just seems like it's the perfect example of the legislature failing to respond to something. It might be generational because our legislature is older and whatever. But I also think, to your point, it's putting $1,600 in my pocket as a working family that I can spend for all these. And it's not just for public schools, right? A universal meals program would be public, private schools as well. Parents keep that money and pay for their tuition, Rob.
I did the math in my column, and just about all but 4 members of the legislature voted for the property tax credit. And I realized that bill got a lot of debate, but almost every, probably the least controversial proposal in it was the credit. Right. $1,600 tax credit. Now everyone in the legislature is talking about what a game changer that is for single family, for primary residence owners, and they're right. It is a game changer. It's going to impact what people pay for their monthly mortgages, for people who've paid off their homes or aren't using an escrow. Their bill's going to go down significantly. It's a big deal. Well, think of how big a deal it is. You got 2 kids in school in K through 12, and all of a sudden, we have 175 days, instruction days, and the school lunch is what, $4.60 some cents a meal. That adds up. That's $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 a year.
Well, and I think your message about this puts money in the pockets of people who need it is the most compelling message. More so than, it is the right thing to do, right? That's less compelling.
They're going to take a cost. Listen, yes, people should pay to feed their own kids, right? But school's compulsory. Yep. You have to send kids to school. And this is society saying, hey, families with school-age kids, we're going to take this cost and we're going to spread it out across society.
Let's flip the coin here. What if school districts start charging parents for books? Right? The state would be up in arms if school districts started charging for books.
So we got a textbook fee.
Yeah. So, if you have to be in school, let's take care of all the needs of those kids, make some better learners, take some stress off of some parents. To me, it's a no-brainer today. It was a no-brainer yesterday. It was a no-brainer a year ago.
Yeah, and take some administrative burden off the school districts who are chasing down these people, or just managing people paying into these funds. Their school districts have to handle that. There's people who run up debt and can't pay, and it's a headache.
Well, and I've heard some folks who are opposed to this because that we might lose out on federal money because people won't need to fill out the reduced school meal federal program. I'm of the opinion schools should just have everybody fill out that form, and we could potentially get more money from the feds to help offset some of these costs.
Or like just fill it out
when you register your kid.
Yeah, with the million other things. How many times I have to write down my address and phone number? I feel like we can consolidate. This is a topic for the Minot Public School District. I feel like we could consolidate some of these forms because I've given you my address 45,000 times.
So Rob, right now, Erin is listening and saying Chad can't relate to that content because she does all of that stuff for Evan.
I'm the paperwork guy in our relationship, and I get a little tired of it sometimes. Let's move on. Donald Trump in August
of an odd year.
endorsing Julie Fedorchak for re-election. Where do you think that came from? It kind of came out of the blue. I thought it was interesting.
Honestly, I saw your column, I saw the press release, and I've been trying to figure out where that came from, and I don't know. I mean, she hasn't announced she's running. I think we both assume absolutely she's running again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I think she's announced it now.
oh, yeah, I suppose if you've been out.
Basically, I mean, this was kind of the announcement.
Yeah,
And the thing about it is, she faced a challenge from the far right.
sure.
Rick Becker. I mean, it was a 5-way race, but it was Rick Becker was one of the candidates. Kara Mund is not a mega person. Alex Balaz, I think, was a well-meaning neophyte.
But it's not like he's added any name ID since then.
And then you had Charlotte Moore, who basically Rick Becker supporters put on in some crazy bid to try to dilute the female vote for Julie Fedorchak. She won that primary, though, decisively. I mean, really, it was a landslide in a 5-way race, and then went on to be the #1 vote getter in a competitive race on the statewide ballot. So I didn't perceive Julie Fedorchak needing Trump to like intervene and try to head off a primary challenge. I think Rick Becker's toast. I don't think he's got it. I mean, even if he ran again, I think he'd do even worse. I don't think he's got it in him anymore. I don't think he's got the juice. I'm trying to think of who else would come, right?
So he's a
challenger. So what?
Correct me if you think this is wrong, but I sort of see Julie as she's new on the big stage, right? On the congressional stage. It's different than PSC, and she's a little bit sort of nervous. She's a nervous candidate and
Anxious. Yeah.
yeah. Trigvy's been out there a lot. You know, maybe she's nervous about, and frankly, I think even a candidate who's likely to get 70% of the vote, it's good that they're nervous. I mean, that's how you make sure you don't get surprised. But maybe that's part of it. And I keep going back to Becker. I keep going back to, you know, he hasn't moved away, so maybe they're nervous about that. It seems super early to be trying to clear the field. If I were her, I wouldn't want a 15, 16-month campaign in a state where she's, even though the co-op poll said that, she was slipping or said Kramer was slipping. Yeah.
I thought that analysis of that polling was a little.
She's doing okay in the polling as a first-term congresswoman.
I mean, Kevin Kramer's about where he's always at. He's the most outspoken, provocative member of our delegation, and that costs him a little bit in approval time. Most of those people come back home on election day and don't have a problem with him. Julie Fedorchak's thing, I mean, her disapproval was right in line with Kelly Armstrong, who was the most popular figure in that poll. It was the unknowns, and that's probably a product of the fact that she's been on the job for a matter of months.
Yeah, she's ran one campaign. Kelly's ran like 4, and this governor's race was super, super high profile.
Prior to that, she was on the Public Service Commission, which is another one of those very valuable, but not high profile. And also, they have 6-year terms. She was on every 6 years in a relatively low profile race.
Yeah, and I think the place that generally people increase their name IDs on the campaign, on the ballot, and she hasn't, at PSC, she hadn't run really competitive races where she had to spend $500,000. So, yeah, it's not surprising. It shouldn't be surprising to anyone that her name ID is lower than Kelly Armstrong, John Hoeven, and Kevin Kramer.
She didn't. I think the use. That is not how I perceived that.
No,
poll.
me either.
Kevin Kramer's right where he's always at in these midterm polls, and mid through his terms in office. And Julie Fedorchak is right where I would expect her to be. I think if we held another election today, I think she'd probably get pretty much what she got in November. So,
listen, I don't think I've made it surprising that I'm sort of disappointed in her talking points around the big, beautiful bill and some of that stuff. But I don't think she's done anything to significantly hurt herself with the electorate in North Dakota.
No, I mean, especially because the electorate in North Dakota expects her to support Trump's agenda. The bill was Trump's agenda. Now, could that eventually backfire on them when some of it starts taking effect and maybe North Dakotans feel some real impacts of that? Maybe. But I mean, arguably, I think Julie Fedorchak can argue correctly that she's doing what she was elected to do.
Well, and I would also just say you look at that poll and Trump's favorability is, I think, higher than I've seen it historically in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if she's doing what Trump wants, it's a political win. for her. I thought your column about Kelly Armstrong has the highest approval rating, but he's the one getting censured by the state Republican Party. I mean, talk about bad politics from the state Republican Party. Let's go after the most popular politician in the state who's on our team.
Right. Well, that's that's kind of the funny, and I think the fact that the state party are kind of Becker supporters, right? Those are Becker people who are in charge now. That's the one place that they've been, outside of like some legislative races around the state, the one place where they have found electoral success are in the smoky back rooms of the NDGOP's leadership process. And that could be, I think that your analysis that the Trump endorsement was Julie Fedorchak being a little anxious.
Yep.
I think that's right. I think she's still getting her sea legs in office. This is not me being critical of her. I think she's
a first-term congressperson. That's all of them
in a pretty fraught environment,
right?
So she, and I think she's looking at the potential for Rick Becker, but maybe even more so the fact that her own political party doesn't like people who are, and this always gets weird.
Successful. They don't like people who are electorally successful.
It's so weird because the people who are in charge of the party absolutely love Trump. I mean, absolutely mega people. But they expect things like they don't hold Trump to those standards. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird, but
it is so funny. So they absolutely love Trump, but they don't like Kelly Armstrong. And the one thing I don't like about Kelly Armstrong is he likes Trump too much, more than I like him to, you know. Right. It's weird.
It's a weird environment. I think that anytime you see Trump tweet and then like minutes later in my inbox drops a press release from that was coordinated, right? That was Julie's team coordinating. And I say that again, that happens all the time, but they're coordinating a message. So it was coordinated by Julie's campaign. And I think it was two things. I think it's to head off maybe warn off Rick Becker or somebody like that. You're not going to get any. Trump's going to try to make sure you don't get any traction, and also warn off the state party. Hey, get in line, because I'm backing Fedorchak.
Well, the other thing that I haven't had a chance to look at, has he endorsed other candidates around the country? I mean,
I have not,
out of nowhere.
I have not seen it. In fact, I'm going to Google right now because that's a really good question.
I mean, I assume there's some places in primaries where he's endorsed, but I mean, a safe incumbent. I always got a kick up to, and it doesn't mean anything, right? I mean,
the Fedorchak thing kind of looks like the only thing. I'm going to look at his Truth Social.
But to get an endorsement from the sitting president from your party, like Conrad and Byron Dorian, those guys used to advertise right before the election an endorsement from Bill Clinton in order to, wrap up or ratchet up GOTV. I always thought that was stupid. Like, of course, the president of your party's endorsing the incumbent.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any other endorsements here. It's a lot of stuff retweeting Fox News clips here and stuff.
Yeah, it's just, it's
a lot of times in election year, you'll see him do like a whole slate.
Right.
His Truth Social feed will be taken over by, he's endorsing this person in Arkansas's 3rd district and this person in Missouri. And I mean,
and maybe he'll start doing that now. And she was the first one, but
maybe. But I think we're right that they're trying to head something off. It's just unusual how early it is in the cycle. But
well, the other thing that's unusual about this cycle is there's no Senate race or governor's race. I mean, it's the congressional race is the top of the ticket. So maybe that's part of it as well. I mean, she's never been the top of the ticket. So there's going to be a little bit different.
She's feeling about that. She's going to be at the top. There's not going to be a lot of other distractions from her race. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but probably, I think our analysis is probably the correct one, as you would expect me to believe. Speaking of interesting things, Emily O'Brien, lawmaker in Grand Forks, moving into the Armstrong administration. Now, it wasn't an appointment. She's not a cabinet official. She's going to be the deputy head of North Dakota Health and Human Services. Kind of an interesting move. I'd been hearing rumblings about it for quite a while. It was just finally announced this week. And, I get an interesting move. And I guess First of all, I think Emily O'Brien probably do great there. I think she's in the legislature. She's a very competent, very thorough person. Doesn't surprise me that she'd want to move up to a job like that. Um, I'm kind of interested in who might get appointed to replace her in that district.
Right. Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's what I'll say about Emily O'Brien. She was exceptionally, we talk a lot about competent legislators on this show. She's an exceptionally competent legislator. When I heard the news, I was like, oh, good for the Department of Human Services, bad for the North Dakota House of Representatives, because you remove Emily, you remove Cynthia Schreiber-Beck, who passed away. I mean, there's a lot of sort of traditional, normal Republicans who aren't going to be there anymore. So, good for her. I don't know enough about her background in HHS issues to know if it's a good pick or not. I just know that she's exceptionally competent, and I generally trust Kelly.
Policy is another. I mean, to me, that's always another debate. You can have very competent, very serious, diligent people who you just don't agree with politically.
Right.
A different matter than you're qualified to do the job. She's obviously eminently qualified to do that job. Do you think, because you bring up a good point about Cynthia Schreiber-Beck, we had appointment Olson over in Watford City, Arnegard, I guess he was from. He had to be replaced. We've had a lot of appointments. Do you think we need to look at the process for replacing legislative vacancies?
So it's interesting you bring that up. Just yesterday, I was going through the list of legislators, looking at some races for next year, and it's four of them, right? There's four of them now that Emily, Cynthia Schreiber-Beck, Jeremy Olson, Josh Christie. That there's folks that I think that during the session, like the Josh Christie situation, you have to have an efficient way to appoint somebody. Now, with Emily O'Brien, right now, I think they could go without a legislator in District 42 until next November. Do we need to appoint somebody for that? Maybe not. But it's hard. And should the process be different? I hate the fact that there's this insinuation that because a district elected a member of one party, that party owns that seat until the end of it. I don't really like that. I'd rather have a special election than the district appointment, but I don't know.
There's nothing to say you can't have both.
Right.
Like during when the legislative session's on and they can't just stop until you get a replacement. Maybe having something that's fast and expedient, like an appointment, works. And then when it's in the interim, you have more time. You can hold a special election because you got to give the candidates time to, get their campaigns together and pitch their messages to the voters. So the thing that bothers me, and maybe this is just being, because obviously I'm not a fan of the political faction that has taken over a lot of these districts. But again, as we just got done talking about with the Fedorchak situation, that is the one place where that faction of the North Dakota Republican Party has some clout. They've been successful in electing district chairs and executive committees. And I just don't think, I don't know. Like I look at that and it's like, we're okay. So now we're picking a member of the legislature based on a district chair who maybe 13 people voted for.
Right. And then you have Cynthia Schreiber-Beck, who's, I don't think that seat has been filled yet, has it?
Still hasn't. No. And that's a situation where, the infighting in that district has been so severe. They haven't even been able to successfully elect officers for that district, let alone get their stuff together to fill a legislative vacancy. So,
the legislature needs to look at changing that process. Hell, let the governor appoint somebody. I would rather have that.
Well, that's what Armstrong, Burgum tried, and he got smacked. He got when what's his name? He passed away during the campaign, and he ended up winning anyway.
Yeah.
And then the governor exercised what he interpreted in the Constitution as his ability to fill that vacancy. The legislature didn't like it. Now they've put in statute that says the governor can't do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
The legislature probably, I mean, allowing the executive branch to appoint members of the legislature, maybe like on an interim basis, that
Maybe it's ledge management should do it. Like, I mean, what that's the case now, right? If a district doesn't do it, then legislative management does it. Maybe that's how you do it.
and maybe I mean, because I do want to respect the fact, like if we have a Democratic majority in the legislature, but we're talking about a Republican district, I don't think that the Democratic majority should just get to pick a Democrat, and vice versa for Republicans. Something were to happen to Josh Boucher, God forbid. I don't think the Republican majority should just appoint a Republican to that.
No, you're right. I mean, maybe there's no perfect system, and the system we have right now might be the
Maybe
best of all these.
Maybe. But it is,
because we also don't want special elections where 86 people are voting in, August of an off year. I mean, and spending the money to put, I don't know.
It's hard. And those special elections are expensive too.
Right.
We've just, I mean, part of that, we've gone through a spate of legislative vacancies due to various circumstances. Unfortunately, a couple of deaths. It's just, I guess it's kind of put a spotlight on that process. And it doesn't help that, again, I think a faction that both you and I don't have a lot of patience with. I mean, they're really in control of these. And it's interesting because we're talking all the time about how increasingly the North Dakota Republican Party is just out of step.
Yep. And not relevant.
And yet the parties have control over this process.
Right.
That's a little.
Yeah, it's not a good situation to be in. But I also think that seat up in District 42 is going to be a really interesting seat to watch in November of next year. It was competitive last time, and they elected one normally Republican and Emily O'Brien, and one that was more on the Bastiat, Doug O. So
now I'm completely forgetting how the Democratic candidates did. Was it competitive?
So I can't remember if the general is competitive, but that primary was. Remember, there's the two normie. Yeah.
I can remember if the general was competitive. Like if that's a situation where you lose, a relatively moderate centrist person like Emily O'Brien, is that an opportunity for Democrats to flip it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I also think that this off-year cycle is going to be so strange without a presidential, with only the congressional. Who's coming out to vote? I think, and how much anger towards Trump is there going to be in some of these eastern part of the state where you could potentially flip some of these legislative seats. I'm interested in Fargo and Grand Forks and legislative seats, and if there's a negative Trump effect that will affect Republicans out there. I think that's the thing to watch in this cycle.
It's going to be interesting. And speaking of the Health and Human Services, Pat Traynor coming out. When we've been trying to get Mr. Traynor on the show and have been unsuccessful. I'm told his schedule is very busy, but he made some comments about cell phones that I think both of us wanted to, where he called it like the greatest health threat facing America now. I should actually look up his actual quote, but I mean, really some strong words about cell phones that I think a lot of people picked up on and was like, that's a little top. Here's what he said. He said, our use of technology and devices is probably the largest public health threat that we have out there. He said, we have a lot of health threats. We have chronic disease, we have cancer, we have, all sorts of other problems. But I think digital device use is perhaps the greatest challenge facing us all, because we are, as a society, completely dependent on these things, and we're excessively using them to the point of interfering with our daily activities of living.
So, Rob,
I called that a load of manure in my typically nuanced way.
So you and I disagree on the cell phone ban, right? I mean, I think that you think it might have been a bridge too far. I support it.
I disagree on the degree of it. I'm not against some restrictions.
Right.
I think this maybe was a little too far.
Yeah. But even somebody who supported how far the Armstrong cell phone ban went.
Like that's why we're calling it now the Armstrong cell phone.
Well, we're going to see if we can bring down this approval rating. I mean, gosh,
I'm anxious to get pictures of some of the bathroom graffiti about Armstrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kelly's name ID won't go down until these 15 and 16-year-olds get old enough to vote. But this was quite a statement. When you think about the issues facing North Dakota with, chronic health, obesity, the public health crisis is all over the place. Homelessness, mental health crises, all these things. We are too dependent on cell phones. Kids are too dependent on cell phones. It's bad for kids. But the biggest thing facing the state, that I'm not going to go as far as saying a load of manure, but it's certainly a bucket of manure.
Okay. Not a dumpster truck, but
Yeah.
maybe a barrel of manure. I hear this, and sometimes it just feels like old people ranting about Elvis Presley is how it comes off to me. And again, maybe it's because my generation, I lived through the satanic panic, and video games are going to turn me into a sociopath, and we turned out just fine.
Have we turned out just fine, Rob?
I think
Have
so.
you looked out your window of the chaos in this world right now?
I don't know. I see a beautiful tree-lined street.
Yes.
That in a few hours some kids will be walking down on their way home from school. I just don't. I think we convince ourselves. I think older generations, we get annoyed at the choices that younger generations make, and so we assume that because they're not having childhoods that are like ours, that their decisions are bad. Like the screen time thing. I've come to the opinion that not all screen time is bad screen time. If your kid is sitting 7 hours a day doom scrolling YouTube or something, then yeah, that's unhealthy. But sometimes the neighborhood kids come, I call it Wi-Fi parties, where they all bring their little devices and they sit on our front stoop because we have a nice big shady front stoop, and they're all there and they're playing games together, and they're on the same game, and I can hear them hooting and laughing. They have created they create images, they create quizzes for each other. They put on skits and recorded them. They've written stories and scripts and made costumes. Now you tell me that that's bad screen time.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, not all screen time is the same screen time. Not all cell phone use is the same cell phone use. I also think, in Trainer's defense on this thing, I mean, I think the cell phone ban is probably not as popular as maybe some people would have wanted it to be. Trainer is appointed by Governor Armstrong, and so maybe him talking about this is what the head of HHS should be doing, representing the governor. But it's a little too far.
I think it's a tough sell. Everybody's on their cell phones too much, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that's true," and then they get on their cell phones and start scrolling Facebook or something. Like I mean, it's so pervasive, and it's
But that's the hardest part about monitoring your kids, right? I mean, I know at my house there's times where Evan's like, "I thought there's no screens, Dad," and I'm like, "Well, I'm checking my email," and he said, "Well, I thought there's no screens."
working. Yeah.
Okay, it's fair.
That's where you have to pull out that old parent hypocrisy. Like, I'm allowed to do this.
Yes.
I'm an adult. You are a child,
Yes.
and you're going to do what you're told.
Yes.
That's tough stuff. But I don't know. I kind of take, like, I want my kids to develop healthy habits around these things. Like, I want them. Cell phones are going to exist in the world, and I don't think that, like, banishing from their presence, banishing it for significant portions of the day, teaches them how to use it responsibly. I think it just teaches them this is a bad thing. I'm going to put the bad thing away during the day. And then I guess if you want to do, like, it's not cigarettes. Like, cigarettes are always unhealthy for you. Cell phones aren't always unhealthy. There are unhealthy ways to use it, but there are very good ways to use it. And I think we're losing some of that nuance, whether it's what I would say is a pretty hyperbolic statement about the public health threat of cell phones, or a school policy instituted by the legislature that doesn't leave any room for the potential for cell phones to be used in an education environment in a positive or healthy way. So I don't know. I would be a lot more focused on, there's this new thing in our lives. Let's figure out how to use it healthily. Bans aren't helping.
Rob, I think there's actually is a carve out to use them for
Is there?
educational purposes. Yeah. I mean, on that piece, I mean, I've talked to parents who have said, I hate when they use cell phones for an educational purpose too early, because my kid doesn't have a cell phone. And then there's, so yeah, again, this
my
is best.
my fourth grader is pressuring me to get him a cell phone. And it's like, no, buddy.
Nope.
too
So
early.
what is the age, right? I mean, Evan doesn't have one, but he has friends and cousins who have the smartwatches that are texting back and forth, and a cousin that's a year older that has a cell phone, and I just don't know. Somebody should tell me the answer. Somebody should tell me how to parent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. And I think sometimes the government obliges and, steps in and tells people, "Oh, um, we're going to ban the phones for you
Yeah.
instead of you doing it." And again, that's one of the things that worries me. It is a struggle for my kids with devices, because they want and they want, and there's so much fun stuff. And my son just got a VR headset for his birthday. I'll tell you, that thing's fun, man. This stuff. One of the first things I did, I took a tour of Anne Frank's, where the Anne Frank and her family lived, the apartment. It was amazing, Chad. I mean, I'll never get to Amsterdam to see that, but
That's awesome.
I got to stand there and see it and hear her words and read. I mean, it was amazing. And I'm looking forward. I downloaded one for the space station. I mean, tell me that that's bad screen time, because I don't think that it is.
Yeah, it's cool.
But anyway, last thing, we want to talk about cheerleaders a little bit.
Well, of course we should talk about cheerleaders. It seems like everybody wants to talk about cheerleaders.
There's just an absolute panic right now that the Vikings have a male cheerleader. And
Two males.
Two males. And by the way, and the Vikings aren't the only team. Several NFL teams, I guess, have these male cheerleaders. Now let's be clear about something first and foremost. The male cheerleaders are not a new thing, not in football, not in sports in general. They've been around for a long time. I think we have to be honest about what this is it's people upset because these particular male cheerleaders are dancing in some fairly provocative ways that make people uncomfortable. And now they're upset and they want to jump all over them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My favorite thing that I've seen the Doug Burgum comparison so often, right? He was a cheerleader at NDSU. George W. Bush, I think, was a cheerleader at Yale. But my favorite thing I've seen is U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's the former football coach at Auburn, has been getting some traction in the right wing, going after Minnesota, the Vikings, and the state of Minnesota for being woke and having male cheerleaders. And I saw somebody post all the pictures of the University of Auburn male cheerleaders that they had the whole time Tommy Tuberville was the coach. So this isn't about male cheerleaders. This is about a certain type of male cheerleaders, ones that are very good dancers and not just holding up the pretty girls.
They're not just the strong guys helping throw the girls in the air stuff. They're dancing, they're performing. And by the way, one of the Vikings cheerleaders from North Dakota, Blaze Sheik. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. If it's Blaze Sheik, by the way, badass name. I that's a cool ass name.
Yeah.
The guy is super talented. I'm not a football fan, so I mean I'm not going to be watching these games anyway. But I like it when North Dakotans, right? We talk about it like in baseball when a North Dakotan gets called up or gets signed by, or in football, people. There's a lot of interest. I like it. It feels like hometown boy makes good, right? Or girl, as the case may be. It makes me feel good. I like it. So I mean, the fact that somebody like this is reaching sort of, if you're in dance, being on an NFL cheer team, dance team, it's a pretty big deal. So good for him. And it makes me so upset, like the slurs and the bigotry and people looking down on it. And for what reason? Because you don't think a male should be able to dance like that? You don't think they should be allowed to dance like that? To hell with you.
Well, and the sexism in the whole thing is, they're dancing in a certain way and they're scantily clad. Like all the women they're dancing with, why is it okay for me to watch 22-year-old women dancing and being a cheerleader, but somehow it's just obnoxious if a male is doing the same moves as they are? But I'm with you. Good for Blaze. Good for Blaze's other male teammate. I also like that they're pushing back on this stuff. But again, the moral outrage over football cheerleaders. We have U.S. senators talking about it. We have every conservative talk show talking about it. Give me a break. I am going to watch the Vikings. I'm actually going to my first game at U.S. Bank Stadium this year in December. I'm probably going to watch the cheerleaders now than I normally would at a football game because I think it's cool. It's good for North Dakota. And we've had other North Dakotans who have been cheerleaders for the Vikings, and we should be proud of them too.
Yeah, we have. He's not the first. Blaze was a member of the NDSU their dance team, I think. And there's another member who was already on the Viking squad. She's been there for a while. And of course, nobody had a problem with that because it's a girl. And I don't, why shouldn't boys, men be able to perform like that? Why shouldn't women do? I thought it was fantastic that Major League Baseball had its first female umpire. Right. I after a lifetime of my two of my kids are girls, my two daughters, who have spent a lifetime listening to their dad on our camping trips or whatever, and dad's got the Yankees game playing on his phone or whatever. Listen to John and Susan call the game, and how important it's been to me that Susan Waldman was the color commentator, because my girls could know that baseball is for everybody. I'm looking forward to when a woman cracks into the sport, as a pitcher or something. I think it'd be fantastic. These things are for everybody. And the cheer team, it's a way that somebody who's into dance and stuff could participate in this hugely popular sport and be part of the fun and part of the spectacle and part of the entertainment. Even though football's not for me, I understand how important that is culturally. And why does this upset you? That this he's dancing like the girls dance. So what? He's good at it. Good for him.
So I would just on the girls playing baseball thing, as I've said on this many times over the last few months, because it's one of my proudest accomplishments. I coached the Royals in rookie Little League this year, and we had two girls on our team. We were the only team with two girls. And I will tell you, those two young women were the most disciplined players on our team and understood the game better than anyone, and it was an absolute joy. Evan is now in flag football, and there's a handful of girls that are playing flag football. Love it. Love it. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And I'm also going to kick out, hey, Rob, if these male cheerleaders were transgender, like, how would the right wing handle that then? Right? I mean, like, it's just, I mean, they're basically saying you can't participate in these things. And again, it's not even competitive. This is entertainment.
One of the things that amuses me the most about the reactions is we go back and forth from nobody cares to I'm going to also post this like very long-winded, hateful diatribe about it to demonstrate how little I care about this. And the thing is, you do care about it. Like, you care about it a lot. I probably never would have written about Blaze Sheik absent the controversy, because football's not my beat. I don't write about it. The collegiate, the dance team's not my beat.
Rob, you write about controversial things.
I write about
this should not be controversial. So why would you have written about it?
I shouldn't be writing about Blaze Sheik. I'm proud of him as a North Dakotan. I'm proud of every North Dakotan who goes on and does great things, whether it's in sports or business or whatever. I want people to be successful, and I am hopelessly romantically biased towards North Dakotans. So, I want to go back to Tom. Oh, go ahead. I wanted to write the column to communicate that, hey, Blaze, North Dakota behind you. Don't listen to the bigots. We're proud of you. Go cheer your ass off, and we'll be cheering for you.
Right on. Well, and I will just also go back to Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator, who voted for Doug Burgum to be our Interior Secretary. I wonder if he knew. Could you imagine the scandal if Tommy Tuberville would have known that Doug Burgum was a male cheerleader at one point? Would he have voted against him?
With the long, glorious hair.
Yeah. And you know what? Good for Doug Burgum for having long, glorious hair and cheering on his NDSU Bison.
Has always had fantastic hair. It almost to the point of it almost makes me dislike him, because he could share some of that follicle wealth with some of us who are follically challenged.
Could you imagine me with some flowing locks? Oh gosh,
I think you'd look so good.
Yeah, I think I should get a wig.
this sparse, weedy garden of hair on top of my head that obliges me to wear a baseball cap 90% of the time. I wish I had more hair, but I don't know. It's the culture war thing. Why do people care? And then people say, well, Port, now you're talking about it, so you're feeding into it. And I think one of the most fundamental things that drives me absolutely crazy is I don't like it when people take it upon themselves to be gatekeepers and to say, we're going to gatekeep football, or we're going to gatekeep culture, or we're going to say you can only do it our way, only the way that we want it. And if you're, we're going to gatekeep being a North Dakotan, or we're going to gatekeep being an American, and you can only be an American my way. And I hate it. I hate anybody who would make somebody like Blaze or some new American who just became a citizen, at one of the wonderful, citizenship ceremonies that we hold, or a refugee or an immigrant or someone who's gay or somebody who has a certain religious background or ethnic background or racial background, any of those things. And you're going to make them feel unwelcome because they don't look like you, or they don't live their lives like you, or they have different priorities than you. That's un-American. Right? Being weird in all the different wonderful ways we can be weird is not un-American. That's the most American damn thing in the world. What's un-American is you saying there's only one way to be an American. To hell with you.
Rob, I don't know if there's anything we should say to end the show other than what you just said. I think Blaze is living his dream, and we should all be very, very happy for him.
Right. It's the pursuit of happiness. This clearly makes him happy. If you watched him dance, the joy on his face, this is a man who loves what he does and has clearly worked very, very hard to get where he's at. Good on him. It's the American dream. Chad's right. Let's put a pin in it there. That's all we have to say about that. Thank you, as always, so much for listening. It's really wonderful. We do have some fun guests coming up. Next week, we're going to be talking with Chad Oban, back to school time. Aaron, former state lawmaker, educator, interesting time in our lives, of course. Kind of one of those few cultural touchstones, right? It is increasingly, we don't have a lot of them anymore, but back to school time is one of them that we all still have. So we'll talk with that. Also, Sherry Haugen-Hofferth from the North Dakota Public Service Commission. Some interesting things going on that the PSC is involved in terms of these data centers coming in. Hot issue. What do they mean for transmission lines? What do they mean for land use? What do they mean for utility prices? Very interesting stuff. And by the way, speaking in that vein, the following week, we're going to have Nick Phillips from Applied Digital. They already have some other projects in the state, like the big facility they have in Ellendale. They're now up by Harwood, north of Fargo, going in there. There's a lot of questions, some controversy. We're going to have him on to talk about all that. So interesting.
And Rob, I think there's some public meetings going on about those topics in the coming weeks, and I think people should check those out.
They really should, and inform themselves. And I think on one hand, I am all for a vigorous process and putting these projects under the spotlight, making sure we're doing them right, respecting everybody's rights. On the other hand, I don't want NIMBY attitudes to get in the way of progress either. So interesting discussions coming up. Stay tuned to Plain Talk. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again. That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening. I call that a load of manure in my typically nuanced way.